This Sabena Airlines Boeing 707 is flying from New York to Brussels. In it are 61 passengers enjoying the comfort of the smooth sailing flight. However, this textbook flight is going to crash at landing. This particular crash will soon become the most mysterious aviation accident ever occurred and will change the reputation of the Boeing 707 forever. It's the night of February 14, 1961 at New York's Idlewild Airport. Parked at one of the gates is Sabena Airlines Flight 548. It's a perfect night for flying with calm winds, clear skies, and no significant delays to speak of. This flight would take them across the Atlantic Ocean all the way to Brussels in Belgium. It was a routine transatlantic passenger service operated by Sabena Airlines. A total of 72 people boarded the flight. Just moments later, they would be on their way to Brussels. Let's spend some time familiarizing ourselves with today's aircraft, the 707. The aircraft model was the 707-329, with a serial number of 17624. The aircraft had its first flight on December 15, 1959, and was delivered to Sabena Airlines on January 19, 1960. Sabena acquired the 707 to compete in the transatlantic market at the time. The aircraft had accumulated approximately 7,400 flying hours at the time of the incident. Another reason why the 707 was a beast in aviation at the time was due to its powerful engines, the Pratt & Whitney JT3C6 turbojet engines. To add on, its configuration was a narrow-body, single-aisle jetliner designed for long-haul international routes. The aircraft was part of the first generation of Boeing 707s, which had introduced jet-powered commercial travel to the public in 1958. While revolutionary for its time, early 707s experienced teething problems, including mechanical and aerodynamic limitations. For today's flight, the captain was 49 years old Charles J. Shook. He had over 18,000 total hours with significant experience on the Boeing 707. He was a highly experienced pilot and senior captain at Sabena. Sitting to the left of him was 33-year-old First Officer Gene Roy. He had approximately 4,000 hours with several hundred hours on the Boeing 707. He assisted the captain in navigation and operations, including handling ATC communications. Then there was the 30-year-old flight engineer Serge Verner. He was responsible for monitoring and managing the aircraft's systems, including fuel, hydraulics, and pressurization. A final inspection by ground crew confirmed that all systems were operating normally. With that being said, at 8:30 that night, Flight 548 pushed back from the gate and began taxiing to the runway. It departed smoothly at 8:30. It climbed to its assigned cruising altitude of 35,000 feet later. Routine communications were exchanged with departure and en route controllers. The aircraft followed a standard transatlantic route, crossing the North Atlantic via designated airways. There were clear skies over the Atlantic with no reports of turbulence. Winds were moderate with no significant impact on flight performance. As the morning hours of the in-flight time approached, the passengers settled in. They would be reaching Brussels at around 10 a.m. Back in the cockpit, the crew maintained constant communication with ATC and monitored the aircraft's systems throughout the cruise phase. No irregularities or malfunctions were reported. It's now 9:45 a.m. at Belgium. The meter indicated overcast skies with a low cloud ceiling and light mist. Visibility was reduced, but conditions were within acceptable landing limits. Nonetheless, Flight 548 continued its descent over Belgium. Shortly after, Brussels ATC instructed the flight to reduce altitude and prepare for a standard approach to runway 20, so they went ahead with the landing procedure. However, the situation at Brussels Airport was quite hectic. There was traffic congestion. So ATC told Sabena 548 to perform a holding pattern. The flight entered the holding pattern for about 20 minutes. During the 20 minutes, It made several left-hand circles northeast of the airport at an altitude of 3,000 feet. Here's when things get strange. The first noticeable issue was when ATC noticed a delay in the aircraft's responses. This was awkward since no other issue were supposedly apparent. Communication from the cockpit became sporadic, but that didn't indicate any emergency. At just after 10 o'clock, it lined up with the runway. Moments later, the unthinkable would happen. The aircraft appeared to climb steeply, followed by a sharp nose-down dive. Ground observers described the plane as wobbling or oscillating before entering its final descent. Angle of impact was nearly vertical, with the nose of the aircraft striking the ground first. The impact caused a massive explosion, scattering debris over a wide area. During the post-crash investigation, the primary focus was the elevator trim malfunction. The absence of the CVR and FDR hindered the investigation. The exact cause was never conclusively determined, but mechanical failure combined with pilot error was the leading theory. Nowadays, the 707 is no longer in service, and has been replaced by modern aircraft such as the 757 and the 767.